This is my M2 MacBook Air, and I made a huge mistake with it. After using it for quite some time, I am sure you shouldn't do it. This MacBook is not what it looks like, so you must hear me out. Especially if you're planning on buying this 13-inch or the new 15-inch MacBook Air. Let's go! Before I start listing its sins, let's just admit that despite everything, this is still a great machine to use, but not for everyone. And that's what I'm gonna focus on now. Who should buy it and why? When this Air came out, we were excited, finally a successor to the M1 MacBook Air, but it turned out to be something else. Lots of questions to tackle, but I'm sure me sharing real experience with you will help you avoid buying the wrong MacBook. When I bought this MacBook, I was fooled into believing that it's such a great MacBook that you don't need the Pro. And apparently I was the only one to get fooled, since Apple has halted chip production.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
So at first I was buying the MacBook for basic stuff like web browsing, typing documents, light Photoshop and so on. And I thought the base model was enough. 8 CPU cores, 8 GPU cores, 8 gigs of memory and 256 gigs of SSD. But the experience I got was far different from my expectations. Lags everywhere, constant bugs and loading beach balls. But then updates started to come in. Update after update, all issues got fixed. Laggy pages, gone. Websites not loading, gone. Stuttering interface, gone. Now I can at least assure you of one thing. If you buy this laptop now, you won't experience the same problem I did, but you will experience the same problems I am experiencing right now. Let's not kid ourselves. You want to know how this Mac stacks up in 2023? Well, it's not perfect in any way, but it gets the job done. If your main activity on a Mac is web browsing and watching movies, you won't have any issues with this MacBook. Websites will open fast and run smoothly, videos will play stutter-free, but only until you actually load the memory on this thing. For example, if you open like 10 heavy tabs in Safari and close the lid for 10 minutes, all pages will have to reload. It's not a very common sight, but happens occasionally. Now you're probably saying, I can live with that. Yes, you can. But is this really the MacBook experience you want? That's what I thought. Let's disregard all that and move on to something more intense. I create all thumbnails for my videos in Photoshop, and Photoshop runs almost flawlessly, at least in my tasks. I don't work with raw photos or export high-res images in batches, but for simple cutting, masking and color grading, this Mac is great. Plus, on this display it's such a pleasure to work with colors, even outdoors. 500 nits of brightness ensure that you see everything, even under direct sunlight, and P3 color gives superb accuracy to your edits. But I don't think there is a lot of headroom for Photoshop here, since just opening the simple project already takes up a couple gigabytes of memory. Since I started this channel, I've been doing a lot of video editing, mainly in Final Cut. And you won't believe what I'm gonna say right now, but it's a much better experience than I was expecting. I edit in 1080p, but B-rolls are often 4K 60 HEVC, and in Final Cut M2 MacBook Air has no issues with the playback. Once it renders the image, which happens quite fast, the playback is buttery smooth. However, that's where the problems start piling up. First, Final Cut does a lot of background rendering, and the rendering is not fast enough to be unnoticed. It's always there, always happening. This makes applying multiple effects a race. Stop rendering before applying each effect, to later render it all at once. This doesn't really bug me all that much, but faster rendering would definitely save me at least 10% of all editing time. Another problem you may encounter is the cache size. As Final Cut renders, it accumulates files. So a library of rendered, optimized media for the 5-minute video can easily take 35 GB or more. A 10-minute video will easily cross the 100 GB mark. And when that happens, you won't be able to edit. So each hour or so, I go and delete all render files, making the library small again. Inconvenient and really annoying. If the SSD would have been 512 instead of 256, I would at least be able to edit a video in one go. The storage is probably the worst part about this Mac. It's so small and slow, especially if you access it a lot. It's a real bottleneck to a powerful and efficient chip. While the SSD is fully loaded, the CPU just casually idles at 10–20% load. I can go on and on about other issues, like the keyboard that's deteriorating as I speak. Look, in a few months of typing it's already gotten glossy. Plus, the MagSafe cable is just nasty. Regular plugging and unplugging did that to it. But there still are good sides. The battery, for example. It comfortably lets me edit videos for hours on end while still being mobile. It's a perfect laptop for trips because of that. Light, powerful and has a great battery. If you want to watch the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy in one go, it will do that on one charge. And it will be a pleasant experience, great screen and pretty great speakers for this size. But who should buy it? Apple sells a ton of computers now: Air, Mini, Pro, Studio. Why choose the M2 Air? Well, I have the answer to that. You should buy it only, and I repeat, only if you're not planning on growing. If your needs are stationary and you're not planning on doing something more intensive, then this MacBook will be a great buy, especially with all those sales out there. Yet if you think of it as a good Mac for starters that can do complex stuff, don't fool yourself. As soon as your needs cross the borderline basic, this Mac falls apart. This way you should buy the 2021 14-inch MacBook Pro at least, which can be found at a very good price. If you don't care about your comforts and want to undercut your spendings to the bare minimum, then the M2 Air may be the Mac for you. But again, the M1 Air will give the same experience, but a couple $100 cheaper. But if you're hell-bent on the M2 Air, you need to do two things. 1. Upgrade unified memory to 16 gigs. 2. Buy an external SSD. Then yeah, if you spend $300 extra, you'll have a good and fairly capable computer. I made this mistake, and you don't want to repeat that. Upgrade the memory, please. Yet even with all those negatives, I still love this MacBook. It's more than a laptop for me, it's a loyal friend, and I don't regret buying it. It wasn't a smooth ride, but we made it, and did it with style. So here you go, this is my experience. Share yours in the comments, ask questions, and I'll try to answer them ASAP. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one. Peace out.